Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Inside the Fishing Forecast. I'm Lee McClellan, Associate Editor of Kentucky Field Magazine, the official publication of the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. This week we're going to talk about trout fishing. Now you may not associate summer with trout, but we're stocking this week tailwaters and streams that can support trout during the summer months. So let's review some of the resources we have on our website so you can find out where trout are being stocked this summer. First, click on the fishing tab. Seems a little self-explanatory if you want to learn about fishing. And you go down to the stocking information page. And on this page, we have a variety of information portals. You have the Fishing in Neighborhoods trout stocking schedule, which concluded in the spring. You can't really stock trout in a lake at this time of year. The water is too warm. That's mainly a late winter, early spring for people to enjoy spring fishing, and they don't make it over the summer in lakes. You also have your Fishing in Neighborhoods catfish stocking schedule, the current stocking map, and also the number and locations and species of fish stocked over the last 3 years. But at the very top is what we're interested in, and that is the statewide monthly trout fishing schedule. And this week, we have stocked a variety of springs, Royal Springs in Scott County. We've stocked creeks. We've stocked tailwaters. All of these are cold enough, such as Royal Springs in Scott County, they could support trout all summer because it doesn't get too warm like in a lake. So we've stocked Harrington Lake tailwater, and that's a very popular fishery for trout anglers around Lexington. But I want to warn you that the traditional ramp at the community of High Bridge is under repair right now and closed. So if you want to access the Harrington Lake tailwater, which is only by water, you can't get there by land because it's private property, and it's the E.L. Brown electricity generating plant, and they don't allow you in there. So you will have to put in at the Camp Nelson Bridge on US 27 south of Nicholasville, right when you cross the Kentucky River going to Danville and you're on the Garrett County side. The ramp, you have to snake around. It's basically under the bridge. And it's a fee ramp, so I believe $5, so be prepared for that if you use that ramp. Also this week, we've stocked Casey Creek in Trigg County and Trammell Creek, which is one of the better known creek fisheries for trout in the state of Kentucky because it's powered by some big springs. And Trammell is one of the few where we have what we call holdover trout, which means they make it over successive years and could grow a lot bigger than the recently stocked fish. So that's a good one. We have a voluntary public access area on Trammell Creek as well, where you can go down and fish. So check that out on our website. Type in VPA, and that'll bring you to a list of the voluntary public access sites we have, and then click on the one for Trammell Creek, and that will help you find a place to access the creek. So, creek fishing in summer. Easy, really. It's mainly rainbow trout, what we stock during the summer, with some brown trout mixed in, but it's 95% rainbows that we stock during the summer. And don't overthink it. Get an ultralight spinning outfit, and if you're just starting out or you're a younger person, try a push-button spin cast outfit. You don't want to use anything heavier than 6-pound test line for trout fishing. 4-pound is best. So if you can get a little 5-foot ultralight, that is perfect for trout fishing these streams. The easiest and best lure to use is the old, venerable inline spinner. A lot of people call these a rooster tail. A rooster tail is a brand of inline spinner, but they're so popular, a lot of people just default and call these rooster tails. But this one is a rooster tail, and this one's the old Panther Martin, which has been around a long time. It doesn't have the dressing on the back, but this catches a lot of trout as well. And with the inline spinner, find a little bit deeper pool, one with a little flow, cast it out, don't let it sink much, and reel it in at a steady pace. That's all you do. You don't want inline spinners to hit the bottom very often because they have this wonderful thing called a treble hook. And if it hooks anything on the bottom, if you can't wade out and get it, it's gone. So cast out, steady retrieve, catch trout. Another thing that works really well in streams for trout is a suspending jerkbait. This is a smaller version of a Yozuri Pins minnow. You can find these at most of your department stores. Also, the suspending Rapala type baits, actually the ones made by Rapala, work as well. I've had great success with the Pins minnow myself. I really like it. You reel it down and it'll stay at that depth that you've reeled it down to, and you just work it with gentle twitches of the rod. Start aggressive, and if the fish don't like it, slow your cadence down. And sometimes you may have to go jerk, reel in the slack, let it sit, let it sit, let it sit, jerk, and it'll get struck. Let the fish tell you. You don't tell the fish, they tell you. Start off aggressive, and then work your way to more and more slower presentations with the suspending jerkbait. This is a bigger one. This personal one here, I'm going to cry when I lose it because I have slayed some nice trout in the Cumberland River below Wolf Creek Dam on this exact lure. Not this type of lure, this one right here. So when I lose it and break it off, I'm going to be sad because I've had great luck with that. It's the 1/8 ounce version of the Pins minnow. Another lure I love that a lot of people don't think of when you think of trout is this is called the Rebel Wee Craw, but is a small crawfish imitator. I've caught this particular color. It's called pumpkin seed. I don't think they make this color anymore, but you can find it on eBay. This is another, with I break it off, I'm going to cry because I've caught dozens upon dozens of trout on this particular lure. And these, you throw them out, you crank them in across a little bit deeper hole. That's all you do. You can pause it every once in a while if they're being grumpy, but most time it's a cast and a retrieve. And this is the deep wee. Okay, there's another that's a much smaller bill, but they only go down about 1 foot. They work, but I much prefer the deep wee. This is another color I like. It's kind of clear with orange. And these are my 2 favorite colors for stream trout. Really, they're great, and you can find these just about anywhere. Another deadly lure for trout fishing is called a Kastmaster Spoon. This is a casting spoon. The smaller one is my favorite. I love gold and silver. I think it's the only ones they have some other colors, but plain old gold or plain old silver, I love this gold one. I've caught fish on this. Again, this one you basically fish like you do an inline spinner, but with the design of it, it's pretty erratic on the retrieve. But don't let these touch bottom too much. Again, that treble hook catches a log, it's gone, unless you can wade out and get it. But these are deadly. Use the smaller sizes for streams. Now, if you're going to fish like, say, Cumberland River tailwater this summer for trout, which is an excellent place to go, the best trout fishery we have in the state by far is Cumberland River. And we have Hatchery Creek as well, which flows in and out, but it's better in the wintertime, to be honest. Use these. They work great. But the bigger sizes in the Cumberland River work really well. But you don't want those for like Trammel Fork. You don't want those. You want this one. If you're beginning, you don't have to do any of these. You can get a size 8 bait holder hook, thread a red worm on it, put a few split shot about 1 foot above the red worm, and fish it on the bottom. Trout will eat red worms all day long. There's also commercial available pastes, nuggets, all kinds of different formulations for trout. Some look like a piece of corn. That is another excellent bait. Is corn, kernel corn, out of a can. Cheaper the better. You thread them on a hook just like you would a worm, and they'll eat it. I've caught big trout in the Cumberland River on corn. I've caught them in small creeks on corn. I've caught them in the gorge on corn. So red worms or corn or the pastes, nuggets, and all. Power bait makes probably the most well-known one, but there's several different versions of it on the market that you can use to catch trout during the summer. If you're just beginning, I would go with red worms number 1, probably corn number 2, and the paste and all that stuff work fine and they're easy to deal with. But I've had better luck actually with corn or red worms. Also, before you plan a trip trout fishing this summer, these aren't the only places that are getting stocked this summer, okay? So check in on the trout stocking schedule before you go and see what recently got stocked. One of our most popular questions we get in the summer is, have they stocked trout in X Creek yet? And if they would look here, they wouldn't have to call and ask. So it's very popular. Check here before you go. Because some of those recently stocked trout, give them a couple of days. A lot of people like to be there and catch them. A lot of times when they come out of the hatchery and they're in the truck and then they get stocked, they're a little disoriented. I mean, they were in the hatchery, then they were like this in the truck for 150 miles sometimes, and then they're deposited. So it takes them a lot of times a day or two after the stocking for them to start, waking up from the stupor of being, from all that stress, and then they start eating. But I know here at the game farm, a lot of times they'll see the trout being stocked, but people, I can't catch one on that day. Sometimes they'll hit, but a lot of times the day of stocking, they're still getting their bearings about them, and they'll turn on better in a day or two after the stocking. Another excellent resource for information is our fishing guide. They're free. They're paper. You can fold it up in your pocket and carry it with you without worrying. Like your phone, you don't want to get it wet. This, if you get it wet, go to Walmart and get another one. Carry it with you. But we have a trout section here. Starts here. That explains the rules. But the next page is all of our stocking for the year. These are the streams. These are the tailwaters. And then on the next page, these are all the lakes. Most of these are Finn's lakes, but not all. These are all the lakes. They also detail what species and how many and total and what months they're stocked. So this will really help you planning a trout fishing trip this summer. Also, if you plan to keep trout, you must have a trout permit. Now, a lot of people enjoy eating trout. And if you're going to use red worms, corn, or the pastes or nuggets, then I recommend getting a trout permit because you're likely to have a gut hook. And if you have a gut hook with a trout, it's better just to keep it because it's likely not going to make it, okay? And also, trout are very delicate. So if you intend to release them, keep your handling to an absolute minimum, okay? One of the things that I like to use are fish grabbers, and you can get them now. They look like a pair of pliers, and they close in, and they're made of plastic. Some people use those with a weight to help. One of the major popular bass fishing tournament shows, that's what they use. But you can grab a trout, but they have some that are thinner and made of metal. That's what I have, that are much easier. You can grab a trout with them. You could take your pliers, pop the inline spinner out of its mouth, and let it go without ever even touching it. Our hands are bad for fish because fish have a slime coat. That's their immune protection system. That's just like our white red blood cells and everything else we have when we are fighting flu or a cold or what have you. That's their immune protection system, is their slime coat. Our hands always, 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 no matter what fish you touch, wet your hands first. Get them wet. That washes off some of that and will protect the fish. And I see some people using towels to grab trout because they're so slick. Well, if you do that, you've really hurt it because you've removed all the slime that they need desperately to protect themselves from parasites and other threats that they have. So don't use a towel. Fish grabbers are the best. A net with a rubber netting, excellent. I have one of those, and that's what I use for trout and for stream smallmouth when I'm fly fishing. So you want to use a rubber net. The ones that are, some of them are smooth nylon, those are better. The rough nylons are the least desirable. But a net beats a towel or holding it really hard with your hands and squeezing it. If you handle a fish long, especially a trout, it's probably best to keep it because a trout is not going to make it if it's handled roughly. So, to review, check the trout fishing schedule, use these simple lures or red worms or power bait or corn, and head to one of these streams and catch some fish. It's a lot of fun. Again, 2 days after they stock is probably best. That's when they're most active, will start biting. And some of these get caught out pretty quickly, so don't wait a couple of weeks. You may want to hit it that week. And these streams that are spring fed are probably the best because they have the coolest temperatures and fish live in them, can handle the summer in those streams, whereas in some others they might stress a little bit. So again, get out and enjoy this wonderful resource. There's not as much fishing in the summer because it's hot. If you're bass fishing on a lake, it's basically night or early morning or at dusk. A lot of fish species other than bluegill get kind of grumpy during the day when it's hot in July and August. But these cool streams with the canopy, they're wonderful. You can wet leg them with a pair of tennis shoes and catch some trout. So get out this summer and enjoy it. And remember, every fishing trip starts with fw.ky.gov.